Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Unfortunately, we need to begin with a troubling development, especially for those of us foreigners who live in China. It's been confirmed that over the weekend, 4 American educators from Iowa's Cornell College, on an official exchange with a local university, were stabbed in a park in Jilin in the northeast of the country. All appear to have survived the attack. Initial reports say that the attacker was an ultranationalist, suggesting that the attack was a xenophobic one. But we should stress that this has not yet been confirmed. Regular viewers will know that in recent years, the nationalist feelings generally, and anti-American and anti-Western feelings specifically, have reached a boiling point in the country. Chinese state media, which often report on Chinese nationals who are victims of violence in the US and other Western countries, were quiet on the stabbing attack in China, however. Indeed, it seems that so far Chinese censors are working hard to prevent discussion of the attack. This may change in the coming days, but there are good reasons for them to censor it, as the attack undermines 2 important narratives which Beijing presents to its population. 1, that the country is very safe, and 2, that hate crimes is a phenomenon only seen overseas, not in China, where, Beijing argues, foreigners are treated very well. Hu Xijin, the outspoken former chief editor of nationalist newspaper Global Times, for example, said on X, quote, "Regardless of the attacker's motive, this incident is an isolated case in the broader context of Chinese society. The public's general sentiment towards foreign tourists in marketplaces and tourist spots in China is friendly." End quote. As of midday Tuesday, local time, there are no statements on the incident from Chinese authorities. We have limited details of the incident at the moment. The group had been visiting a temple in Beishan Park during the day when they were attacked by a man with a knife. A video of people lying on the ground in a park covered in blood was circulating on X on Monday, though no trace of the images could be found on Chinese social media. This incident is not helpful in the attempts to revigorate US-China educational ties. This year, Xi Jinping pledged to invite 50,000 young Americans to China for study programs to boost people-to-people ties. The number of American students in the country has collapsed in recent years. There are currently almost 300,000 Chinese students in the United States, while there are fewer than 900 Americans studying in China, according to US data. A State Department Level 3 travel advisory to China warns US citizens of possible arbitrary detention, and this attack will not help either. Indeed, if the motive of the attack does end up being an anti-Western hate crime, then lawyers for US academic institutions may feel the need to issue new warnings for faculty and students travelling to the PRC. The fact that the victims are also from Iowa will add to the political headache for Beijing too. This is because Xi Jinping himself has long held up the connection to the farming state as of personal significance to him. He had lived with an American family in Iowa for a period as a young man. The US State Department announced today, Tuesday, that it is monitoring the situation. Next up, over the weekend, Premier Li Qiang chaired the weekly State Council Executive Meeting. 2 major areas were discussed, which are worth unpacking here: venture capital and real estate. According to the readout, the meeting was, quote, "to discuss policies and measures to promote high-quality development of venture capital, and hear reports on the current real estate market situation and considerations for constructing a new real estate development model." End quote. There are a few points worth noting. Quote, "The section on venture capital could be positive, though I think it signals more of the party-directed visible hand approach to using venture capital in early-stage, small-scale and hard technology investments. The meeting called for actively attracting foreign venture capital funds, but given the geopolitics, I assume they mean money from the Middle East, since US funds and their investors are increasingly avoiding PRC investments and will likely have to cut back even more in the future." End quote. Bishop also pointed out that the readout also said that the exit channels should be broadened, which is a problem now as exits to the US are much harder than they used to be, and the Chinese Security Regulatory Commission has again raised the bar on new IPOs in another attempt to stabilize the domestic stock markets. The readout also made comments about real estate, signaling that more support may be on the way, and expressing, quote, "It is necessary to continue to research and reserve new policies and measures for inventory reduction and market stabilization. For the digestion and revitalization of existing housing and land, thoughts should be liberated, and the work should be steadily and solidly advanced." End quote. However, after 3 long years, the housing crisis continues to fester on. Next up, a top Hong Kong judge warns that rule of law may be coming to an end in the city. Hey everyone, if you're getting some value from today's episode of China Update, I have a huge favor to ask. That is just to hit the like button, and if you have not already, subscribe. 45% of regular viewers are not subscribed. Hitting like and subscribing is the only way in which the channel can grow. Sharing is a big help too, and Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are also in the description below for those who want to help me keep the channel financially sustainable and primarily supported by subscribers. Thank you so much, everybody, for the ongoing support. Jonathan Sumpton was an overseas judge of Hong Kong's Court of Final Appeal. He, along with two other colleagues, have resigned from the court over the last week. Yesterday, he wrote an op-ed in the UK-based Financial Times where he warned that rule of law in Hong Kong, a powerful and fragile state which was built up in the former British colony over 100 years, risks being destroyed if the city continues down its current path. Let's examine some of his comments in the op-ed. Quote, "An oppressive atmosphere is generated by the constant drumbeat from the compliant press, hardline lawmakers, government officials, and China Daily, the mouthpiece of the Chinese government. A chorus of outrage follows rare decisions to grant bail or acquit. There are continual calls for judicial patriotism. It requires unusual courage for local judges to swim against such a strong political tide. Unlike the overseas judges, they have nowhere else to go. Intimidated or convinced by the darkening political mood, many judges have lost sight of their traditional role as defenders of the liberty of the subject, even when the law allows it. There are guarantees of freedom of speech and assembly in both the basic law and the national security law, but only lip service is ever paid to them. The least sign of dissent is treated as a call for revolution. Hefty jail sentences are dished out to people publishing disloyal cartoon books for children, or singing pro-democracy songs, or organizing silent vigils for the victims of Tiananmen Square. Hong Kong, once a vibrant and politically diverse community, is slowly becoming a totalitarian state. The rule of law is profoundly compromised in any area about which the government feels strongly. I was an overseas judge of the Court of Final Appeal until my resignation last week. I remained on the court in the hope that the presence of overseas judges would help sustain the rule of law. I fear that this is no longer realistic. Others are less pessimistic. I hope that they are proved right." End quote. The day that this was published, yesterday, Beverly McLaughlin announced her resignation from Hong Kong's Court of Final Appeal 2. McLaughlin, 80, is the third overseas judge to announce a departure over the past week, following resignations from Sumpton as well as Lawrence Collins, both former justices of the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom. Collins had cited Hong Kong's political situation after his Thursday resignation. Meanwhile, former chief economist to Morgan Stanley, Stephen Roach's recent comment critical of Hong Kong's direction has provoked a fiery reaction from the Hong Kong government in Beijing. We remember back in February, the outspoken economist made waves when he penned an op-ed titled, "It pains me to say Hong Kong is over." Roach said he was muzzled at the China Development Forum in March for the first time in a quarter of a century after being advised, quote, "It's in your best interest, in our best interest, if you don't speak." End quote. Roach warned that a growing intolerance of debate in China could lead the country down the wrong path. Tam Liu Chung, vice president of the National Hong Kong and Macau Research Association, hit out at Roach, saying that he was simply, quote, "bad-mouthing," end quote, and the Hong Kong government published a long rebuke to Roach's previous analysis. Political analysts Lo Sui Kai told Hong Kong-based South China Morning Post that the response from the local government, quote, reflected the urgent need to challenge Roach's assessment and other Western critics who set out to smear Hong Kong out of ill intentions by arguing the city and the mainland's short-term economic challenges signalled long-term decline or collapse, end quote. In the same publication last week, Stephen Roach said that Hong Kong's response to his speech shows, quote, worrisome sense of denial, end quote, and being, quote, a smokescreen, end quote. He said the authorities' rejection of his message over the troubles ahead for the economy lacked any analytical angle, and he is concerned by their decision to, quote, resolve tough problems with a descriptive spin, End quote. In a letter to the Financial Times, however, PAG Executive Chairman Wei Jianshan argued it was premature to write off Hong Kong, as it, quote, remains appealing as a free and open society with an independent judiciary and low taxes, end quote. I guess we will find out in the coming months and next few years who is correct. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Have a good Tuesday, and I will see you all tomorrow.